flow.
Welcome to episode 155 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. We're back, baby. We were on a bit of a hiatus, but the boys are finally back. GFP is officially back in action. The Leafs are 7-5-2 to start the season. I don't know, it's been an okay start to the season, and we are going to give you our thoughts and opinions on everything that has gone down with this team so far, because you haven't heard from us in a long time. So let's not waste any time whatsoever. Lepore, what are your thoughts on this Leafs team?
Right at it, Bruno. Hey, how are you? How's life?
I skipped all of that. Yeah. I just want to know your thoughts on this team. That's all I care about.
Okay, well, I think we're seeing a lot of the same things so far anyway. We're seeing some good, we're seeing some bad, we're seeing some inconsistency that I think is driving Leafs fans nuts. But I'll tell you what's strange, okay? This team is very different than previous seasons, and that's not like the hot take of like, oh, this team is now going all the way type thing. I think the injection of Tanev and Ekman-Larsson and Stolarz and the development of Nyes, the team seems to have a different sort of character, which I really like. We were told before this season started that there'd be some growing pains with all these changes and Willie moving to center. And we've seen that. We have seen some growing pains, but I do think when this team looks good, they look very good. Very, very good. We talked before the season started. This was a good team last year, and you replaced Brody and Klingberg with Tanev and Ekman-Larsson. And if I'm being honest, Bruno, and I always am on this podcast, I was scared shitless of Ekman-Larsson. And not that I thought he was going to be atrocious. I was just nervous. Just like the storyline of how he used to be good, and then he was shit, and then he was good again, and now he's coming to Toronto. I'm like, well, it's got to go the other way now again.
You didn't know what to expect from him, especially because he was playing third pairing minutes on Florida, playing on a championship team. You're like, okay, what version of this guy are we going to get?
Yeah, exactly. And I think he looks fantastic. And people may say this is a hot take, but I'll just finish with this. Anthony Stolarz is elite. He's elite. I've seen enough. I'll say it. I've seen enough. How many games in are we? 14? Anthony Stolarz is in the upper echelon of goalies in the National Hockey League. And it's not about his numbers. I don't know if you saw it. Someone brought up his 5-on-5 save percentage. It's like 9.5 something, like absolutely bananas. And that's not sustainable, but it's nice to see. But it's not even about the numbers. It's not about the saves. It's just about when he's in the net, there's not a lot of movement. There's not a lot of panic. And to be fair, a big part of it may be the defense in front of him. Like the new coaching staff has done an excellent job with the defensive play of this team. And Tanev could not be any more bang on to what he was advertised as, just in the way he gets in the way of everything. Every shot, bang, hits him, bang, hits him, bang, hits him. Poor guy. I don't know. How long he's going to live with all these blows to the body.
Is he going to make it through that contract with all these blocked shots? Jesus.
I don't think he's going to make it through that contract, even if he never blocks a shot ever again. But all in all, I think it's a good start. I think I'm more positive than I am negative. I am still weary. It was a great win against Boston, obviously, even more so not having 34 in the lineup. I think the next 3 games are going to tell us a lot, because we have Detroit on Friday at home, then a struggling Montreal team that's getting lit up every night on Saturday, and then the Senators on Tuesday. So 3 of what people would call the bottom teams in our division. Let's go to 10-5-2. Let's do it.
Or at least you got to win at least 2 of 3.
At least. At least that's non-negotiable. Absolutely non-negotiable. But I mean, Detroit's always weird. They're a different team every time you play them. I don't know what the hell that team is. Montreal has their voodoo over us. And the Sens, every time they play the Leafs, they're playing for an Olympic gold medal. So it'll be tough. And because I'm so optimistic of a 3-0, I'm sure it won't happen now. But I've spoken enough, Bruno. How's your heart rate doing with this year's version of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, listen, I agree with you to a certain extent, but I also disagree with you about a few
Beautiful.
things. So the first
Beautiful.
thing that I can definitely agree with is that Anthony Stolarz is unreal.
The
I've seen
man.
enough as well. Okay. And the other thing with him, he's fucking huge. The guy's 6'6". He's just massive. And as you said, he's calm, he's composed, he's always in position. He's not flailing all over the place. And I guess you don't have to flail all over the place when you're 6'6". But yeah, the numbers don't lie. 5-2-2, a 2.12 goals against, 928 save percentage. He's fourth in goals saved above expected. And last season, he was third in the NHL in goals saved above expected. So that's 2 years in a row. He has been top four in the NHL in goals saved above expected. So whether you're looking at regular stats, advanced stats, he's been awesome. I think he has been like the bright spot of this team this season. You could make the case that Matthew Nyes is right up there with him, because he seems to be breaking out, at least from a goal scoring perspective. But for me, it's number one, without a doubt, Anthony Stolarz. Where I disagree is that I'm not maybe as optimistic about this team as you seem to be. Now, listen, I think they're playing well. Like when you look at the 5-on-5 numbers, they're pretty good. I've seen some stats floating around showing like the 5-on-5 numbers over the first, whatever, 14 games of last season compared to the first 14 games of this season. And there's a big contrast. The 5-on-5 numbers are better now. But if you look at the 5-on-5 numbers overall this season compared to last season, they're kind of around the same. Like
Mhm.
when you take the whole season into account. So right now the Leafs are seventh in expected goals for percentage with a +9 goal differential at 5-on-5. Last year they finished 11th in expected goals for percentage. They were +32 at 5-on-5. Where they've improved big time is 5-on-5 save percentage, and that's big reason for that has been Stolarz. Last year, though, Lepore, the Leafs were third in 5-on-5 shooting percentage. This year, they're 16th. And that's the one thing that continues to scare me is
Mhm.
that the goal scoring just has not been there. Even if you just look at goals per game, the Leafs right now sitting 17th in the NHL in goals per game. And the power play, outside of the game against the Bruins, which I was at, by the way,
Atta
where,
boy.
where they finally exploded for 3 power play goals. This power play has been dog shit for basically the entire season up until this Boston game. Now they're hovering just under 15%. Whereas I think heading into the Boston game, I think they had the worst power play in the NHL, which I don't even know how that's possible with all this talent. So the
Yeah.
thing that concerns me still is, again, going back to maybe some of the demons that we've seen in the playoffs, where this team just cannot score. They cannot score in high leverage situations. They can't score on the power play. And if that continues, they're not going to win shit in the playoffs. So I love how the defense core is playing. I love Tanev. Ekman Larson, I'm going to do a little bit of a victory lap because I was actually pretty high on him coming into the season. Loved watching him play for the Panthers last season, especially during their cup run. So I love what the defense core is looking like. I love what Stolarz is looking like. I think the team has a little bit more balance, but they got to figure out this offense, man. And until they do, I'm still going to be a little bit worried about their long-term success.
See, what I would say about your concerns, and I'll let you answer the question, okay? The power play. Like you said, they went, was it 3 for 7
Three for
the other night?
seven.
Yeah. You were against the glass, right, Bruno, in the Platinums?
Oh, are you
That's
kidding? How rich
that's
do you think I am, Lepore?
that's where Bruno sits. So as far as the power play goes, and this is not even like being a Leafs homer, there is way too much talent on that power play that after 82 games, they're going to have, I think they had the 30, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned you thought they might be the worst. I think they were 31st and the Oilers were the worst, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. With the talent they have, there's no way after 82 games that power play is going to be in the bottom couple teams in the National Hockey League. I think that has to adjust at some point. And like you're going to see, I predict, and I hope that you're going to see more of what we saw the other night, where they score three, they're having 2, 3, 4 power play goal games. So then it kind of adjusts all the numbers and things look more normal. And I feel the same way about the shooting percentage. Like you said, it's not good. And we always see that in the playoffs, the shooting percentage goes down. I'm not really worried about that. Like Matthews himself, his shooting percentage is tremendously
Well, how about
below.
Matthews? Like, speaking about being worried, what are your thoughts on him? Because he has had a brutal start to the season. Maybe brutal's a little bit too aggressive, but when you compare the start this year to what we saw him do last season, the guy has 5 goals, 11 points in 13 games. I know he's injured now, but geez, that's just not good enough.
Yeah. I mean, for him and his expectations and what he signed for. But now is the understanding that he started the season unhealthy. And we all know, like, it's no excuse. Like Matthews is borderline a band-aid. The guy gets hurt a lot, like these little tweaks and injuries he always has. So it could have been that. I mean, I don't think that's a hot take to say that, he started this season with something bothering him that affected his production. And he said, you know what, let's shut it down. Or he was told to shut it down. I don't know. I mean, he scores in bunches too. Like people were pointing out, did he have 2 hat tricks? And was it in the first 2 games last year? Like 2 in the first
Yeah, I
3
think he
games?
had 6 after his first 2 games, or something. It was something crazy like that.
So people were pointing to stuff like that. It's like, well, it's an 82 game season. That can happen in games 20 and 21. And now everything's back to where it was. And that could be wishful thinking. But I don't know. I understand your concerns, but I'm not lying when I say that, like, I expect those things to adjust, and someone could fire back at me and say, well, Stolarz is going to adjust. And yeah, he's going to. But the fact of the matter is this team, I think their points pace now is in the 90s.
Yeah, it's bad. They're on pace for 94 points this season.
Well, bad. I mean, it's one of those things. This early in the season, you win one, you lose one, it flips by like 10 points. But I'll say that, like, straight question. Are the Toronto Maple Leafs at this point playing at the level that you expect them to play at for the totality of the season? Are they better or worse? Like, I think they're worse. Like, I think they have another gear. And the fact that they're 7-5-2 and these weird random things like the power play and the shooting percentage exist, I'm not tremendously worried. Where you should be worried is when you're that team that's got a 40% power play 10, 12, 15 games in, and you're under 500. It's like, well, what happens when that adjusts?
Or if you have an amazing power play and you're garbage at 5-on-5.
Sure. Like and it's fun to dissect the teams this early because nothing makes sense. Because like these small sample sizes and teams that have no business having good power plays have good power plays, and teams are winning and you're like, oh my God, or have they improved? Then you look at their shooting percentage and it's like, no, it's not sustainable. It's going to adjust. And you try to use that to bet against them and gain financially. But it'll be fun to see. But I do like this team. And I'm sure people can look back at videos of me saying that in the past. But like last year, I did not like the Leafs. I'll say that. The team didn't feel right all year. Whereas this year's team, like I said, we have a goalie. We have at least one goalie, and
the decor is good.
I was gonna say this. My next comment was gonna be, this decor is the best decor in the Matthews era. Full stop. Like full stop. And then even in terms of like offensive depth, I mean, the way Nyes is developing, I think Leafs fans would like to see more from McMahon and Robertson. I mean, I shouldn't say I think. I know we need more from those guys to get to the next level. But I'm good right now, Bruno. Ask me after the next 3 games, and maybe I've changed, or maybe I'm even higher on this team. But yeah, I mean, I'm okay. And maybe that's me being numb as a Leafs fan, going through all these regular seasons of meh and not really caring where we end up as long as we are playing after the regular season. But I'm okay.
Yeah, I'd be a lot more concerned if this team was shit at 5-on-5, which they're not. But again, the power play is concerning. I think that they should just go back to Morgan Rielly running the first unit full time. I know they've been kind of switching back and forth, Rielly and Ekman-Larsson. Listen, with Morgan Rielly quarterbacking this power play, if you go back over the last like 5 to 6 years, even if you go back to actually like Matthews, Marner, and Nylander's rookie year, I'd have to look at the numbers, but they've essentially been a top 5 power play that entire time.
Yeah.
And Morgan Riley's been the quarterback. So I know everyone likes to say he can't shoot, he doesn't have a one-timer, this and that. I mean, fuck, they've had a top 5 power play for the last like 8 years with Morgan Riley as the quarterback. So, and he was the one quarterbacking the power play the other night against Boston when they were scoring all those goals. So that would be my one thought on the power play. But yeah, I'd be way more concerned if they were garbage at 5-on-5. There are a lot of positives, but they got to start scoring more goals. And Matthews has to get back to playing like Austin Matthews.
Quick question, Bruno. We're 14 games in, okay? On our preview show, you predicted this team to win the division in the regular season. Do you feel the same way?
No. At this point, I don't think they're going to win the division. Like, Florida's playing so well. And at the time of recording, they are annihilating the Nashville Predators. And they're just continuing to win games. So, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to bet against that team at this point. They just won the cup. They're firing on all cylinders. The Leafs getting out to a slow start, as we've seen over the last few years. Honestly, it's hard to bet against the Florida Panthers at this point. It's time for a quick break for a word from Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. But what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience that shave? Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. My goodness! The game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. Lepore, Manscaped simply does not miss.
Bruno, I used mine for the first time the other day, and it was just absolutely beautiful. How it was so smooth across my face. It was like watching Sergei Fedorov skate, for crying out loud. Manscaped, again, hit the nail right on the head. 10 out of 10 product. Go to the website, manscaped.com, GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping.
You can shave your balls, you can shave your face, you can shave anything. Manscaped has every product you need. Doesn't matter what job you need to get done. They got your back. And you heard it from Lepore. Get 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive code GFP20 at manscaped.com. So go to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our code GFP20. It's time for an important message from BetterHelp, a sponsor of today's episode. Sometimes in life, we go through difficult times, whether that's personally, whether that's in a relationship, and your mental health cannot be ignored. And a lot of times, you can't tackle these situations by yourself. You need help. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. They make therapy easier and much less intimidating for a lot of people. BetterHelp lets you have therapy sessions as a phone call, video chat, or even messaging, whatever is most comfortable for you. BetterHelp will connect you with one of 30,000 therapists in their network, and in most cases, you'll be connected with a therapist within 48 hours. So go to betterhelp.com/GFP for 10% off your first month of therapy. Lepore, this service is incredible.
It is incredible, Anthony Bruno. Mental health is something that's very serious, and be aware if you're going through a dark time, you do not have to try to beat this thing alone. There are services out there that can provide you with some great help. BetterHelp is number one when it comes to that. As Bruno mentioned, there are different ways you can get in touch with people, different ways you can contact people. It's all up to you. Go to betterhelp.com/GFP.
Join 4 million people who have used BetterHelp to live healthier and happier lives. So go to betterhelp.com/GFP for 10% off your first month of therapy to connect with a therapist and see if BetterHelp is right for you. Talking about the Atlantic Division in general, like, what are your thoughts? Are we in for another? I mean, it just sounds sickening to say this, but are we in for another Leafs Lightning first round series?
Oh, you know what, man? I haven't even thought that far ahead of like first round opponents, but there's a lot of hockey to be played. I think the big story, if we looked at the records, like Florida, not surprising. I mean, they have the belt. They're a great team. They have a great coach. No one's surprised they're top of the division. Okay. The Leafs, man, they're not doing too badly. They look good some nights, like bad other nights. But sorry, last couple of years, they've had slow starts. So they kind of are what they are. Tampa's Tampa. The big one is Boston. And what's going to happen with the Bruins? I think that's the big story in the division of where this team's going to end up. Other than that, it seems pretty par for the course. I mean, you mentioned the Predators getting annihilated by the Panthers. The Sens are getting killed at home to the Islanders right now. That's going to put them below 500. Like I said, the Red Wings seem pretty.
Turns out the Senators still suck, eh?
Yeah, apparently, no matter how much I try to will them to gain some fans from my local city, it just doesn't happen. And Buffalo had a bad start to the season, but as far as Boston goes, okay, and we can talk about this one for a while. Right now, how long of a leash does Montgomery have, really and truly?
I don't think it's very long, because even going back to their historic season where they finished with like, what was it, like 132 points? They blow the 3-1 series lead against the Panthers. Then they almost blow the 3-1 series lead to the Leafs last season. They barely get past the Leafs, lose in the second round, and now they're off to an awful start. Their offseason additions really have not worked out. And Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov. Jeremy Swayman's kind of off to a slow start after signing his big contract. And really no one fucking produces offense on that team outside of Pasternak. And that's what we thought even going into last season. It's like, where the hell is this offense coming from? But it's been Pasternak scoring 50 to 60 goals and then everyone else kind of chipping in. And now it seems like they can't score at all. Like, because even Pasternak, he hasn't been like typical David Pasternak. That team, man, like, again, when you look at them on paper, there's really not a lot to get excited about. Like, this team could really be in trouble. And listen, they're the Bruins. They always kind of find a way to figure it out. But when you start stacking them up on paper to some of the other teams in the division, especially obviously the Panthers, the Leafs, and the Lightning, they could be in trouble. And so could Montgomery real quick, man.
See, maybe I'm guilty of galaxy braining this right now, but here's my prediction about Boston. So I've watched them quite a bit this year, but we'll focus on the game the other night against Toronto. That was not a 4-0 game. Boston had their chances. They just couldn't put one away. They went 0 for 6 on the power play. That should have been a closer game. And they still, to me, when I watched them, I was thinking, this is a good team. Like, team unit, they look good. So I think they have the potential to turn it around. And I think a lot of people feel that way, again, just because of the Boston Bruins. But this is my galaxy brain prediction. Okay. This lull goes on a little longer, just a little longer. Montgomery's going to get axed because they can't wait too long. They have to snap something into this team. So the coach is going to get axed. They're going to get a new coach, and I have some ideas on who it could possibly be. And then they're going to be the Bruins again. It's going to be that classic story of like the new coach injected something in the lineup and they'll win like 10 out of 11 or something. And they're like I said, they're Boston again. And it'd be great to look back on this because I'm either going to look like a genius or I'm completely out to lunch. But that's what I think is going to happen. Or I just think too, I remember Brian Burke said back in the day, when a coach gets fired, the vultures are circling for a bit and you sense it and you feel it. And he's right. It always kind of feels like that. And you said, like, Boston, that blown 3-1 series lead to Florida was gross. That was gross. But they couldn't really fire him after the regular season they had. And I'll say it, if Toronto wins game 7, he's fired.
I agree with that. He would have been done.
He would have been done. And that series against Florida, what was it, 6 games? But they never really looked like they had a chance.
Florida was so much better.
Yeah, that was the easiest money I've ever made. And then you go to this year, the slow start. So, and the beef with Brad Marchand, and now he's only Brad Marchand. He's the captain. Yeah, I think it's a matter of time before he's out of there. And my fear is that that team is going to get the kick in the ass they need, and those offseason signings are going to turn it around, and we're going to see what we typically see: Boston at the top of the division again, or near the top at least.
And speaking of blowing 3-1 leads, at the time of recording, the Flames and Bruins are playing right now. The Bruins had a 3-1 lead on Calgary. It's now 3-3 in the third period.
Oh, let's go. Let's go Flames.
Wow.
How many goals? Nas lighting it up or what?
Let's see. Who scored these goals for Calgary? Tyson Barrie, former Leaf.
Let's go.
Igor Sharangovich and Nazem Kadri scored the tying goal. Let's go.
Look at the former Leafs lighting up the Bruins. I fucking love it.
When I look at the Bruins, even just looking at them from a statistical standpoint, they have a -12 goal differential through 14 games. They have the second worst goal differential in the division behind the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, I mean, holy shit. They're just not a good team right now. The other thing, though, is that these other teams in the Atlantic, who everyone thinks was going to take a leap, turns out they all kind of suck again. Detroit hovering around 500. The Senators, as you said, hovering around 500. Same with the Sabres, and Montreal, once again, the worst team in the division. So it's the usual cast of characters that are in the top four. Maybe the Bruins are the one team that fall out of it. But yeah, I think as of now, it's hard for me to bet against the Panthers based on the start that they've gotten off to. Like after tonight's win, they're going to move to 10-3-1. The Leafs are at 7-5-2. And as you said, they have kind of an easy stretch coming up. So maybe they can get back into the race. And listen, I know it's only 14 games in. It's early, but you know what we always say every year. I know people get annoyed. They keep hearing this. Like right when you hit American Thanksgiving, basically like 75 to 80% of the teams that you see in the playoffs are essentially going to make the playoffs at that point.
Yeah.
Like, there's typically not a lot of movement after American Thanksgiving and like heading into the holiday season. It kind of what you see is how things are going to end up more or less. Right. So yeah, at this point, I think the Leafs are probably going to finish second again, which is annoying because they never win this damn division unless it's the North/Canadian division. So yeah, I think the Panthers are going to take this home again, unfortunately, and then it's going to set up looks like a Leafs Lightning first round matchup. Jesus, I'm just so sick of that. I don't want to see that again.
Really don't want to see it because of fear or because of boredom?
No, I just think it's boring. Like I'm just so done. Like can the Leafs just 1 year win the division? I don't know, play like
someone.
Anyone. Washington's actually been really good this year. Play anyone from the Metropolitan in the first round. Play anyone other than Tampa or Boston in the first round, for the love of God.
But again, Bruno, the whole division thing and the bracket is ridiculous for that reason. It's so boring. But really quickly, just finish up with the division. We'll move on. Montreal, okay? Mm-hmm. Things obviously are not going well for Montreal. They're letting in a lot of goals. A few weeks ago, people were saying Montembeault was going to be the goalie for Canada, and that's quickly fallen under the rug. But would you say they're where you thought they would be, or are they worse? Like, did you think this team was going to take a step, even if it was a small one?
I thought they were going to be marginally better than they are. Like I remember in our preview show, I think I had them under their point total. I'd have to go back and check that, but
I think you did.
I didn't think they'd even come close to sniffing the playoffs. This team's still rebuilding. I thought they'd maybe be marginally better than they are right now. But yeah, you said it, just looking at their defensive numbers. They're second last in the league in goals against per game. You know what's actually stunning? You know which team is dead last in goals against per game?
Dead last?
Dead last. You probably won't. You won't believe this.
Well, it's a team that's supposed to be good then.
Who's in the West?
Who's letting in a lot of goals? Not Edmonton, is it?
No, but it's a Western Conference team.
Where's Edmonton on the list? Aren't they pretty bad?
Edmonton's not terrible. They're like, where are they here? They are.
Well, their penalty kill is
they're
like
20th in the league in goals against.
Okay, it's their penalty kill, right? That's like historically bad right now.
Yeah, their penalty kill, Edmonton 59.5%.
That's like hard to do.
And their power play went from being like the greatest power play in league history to being shit. So they can't score on the power play. Their penalty kill's garbage. Their 5-on-5 numbers are good. That's the one thing I'll flag about Edmonton. Still have good 5-on-5 numbers. But the team that's dead last in the league in goals against is the Colorado Avalanche. Dead last in goals against per game.
They've had a lot of injuries and they can't get a save, man. They can't get a save.
Well, that's really surprising, Lepore. But in your opinion, which team has been the most surprising to you so far this season, based on how good they are, based on how bad they are, maybe based on how mediocre they are?
You know what?
That team?
I'm just going to go with the first team that popped into my head. I'm going to say the biggest surprise, and there was a lot of debate about this team, and you and I went at it pretty hard in the futures episode, because I said this team got better, they're going to do better than last year, and you said last year what they pulled was bullshit and they were on their way down. I'm going to say it's the Washington Capitals. Like, I don't think anyone expected this. I think with the other teams, the storyline was kind of there. Of like, okay, like Boston, people could see them being, kind of adjusting kind of towards mid. And then as far as Nashville goes, new bodies, new culture, new team, this could happen. Whereas Washington, like, I don't think nobody predicted this. No one predicted like the Washington Capitals to be some juggernaut. Like, what do they have? Like 2 losses?
I believe they're 9-3, and I don't think they're playing again tonight. Let me see if they're playing right now. No, they're not playing tonight, but I believe they are 9-3 right now.
There you go.
Pretty damn good.
Pretty damn good. The Washington Capitals and Ovechkin looks like it's inevitable.
Ovechkin's
Bruno.
back. He's on fire these last 5 games. He's got like 10 points in his last 5 games.
Yeah, you're gonna make me cry, Bruno. You're gonna make me cry.
The Wayner's coming. It's coming. It's going down, man.
Shit.
Oh, it's only a matter of time. What is he? I think he's 33 back.
Is that it's that
only
low already?
33 goals.
So he's at 861.
Yeah, so he started. I want to say Ovechkin started the season 41 goals behind. He's already got 8 goals this season.
Shit. So he's gonna do it this year or no?
It's gonna come down to the wire. If he does it, that's like a final week of the season thing, which would be pretty damn exciting.
Yeah, and you just know he's going to be on for every empty net opportunity, all that.
He's the empty net merchant.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Boudreaux who was on. Is he on Sportsnet or TSN now? He pops in once in a while, and here's a guy who was in Washington, and I don't think he meant it directly to Washington. I think he just meant it as far as like an NHL owner's perspective. He was saying the ownership group is hoping to God he doesn't get it this year, because then they'll sell all the season tickets in the summer knowing he's going to do it. So kind of funny, but I'll go with the Washington Capitals, man. I thought they'd be pretty good. I thought they'd end up in a wild card spot, and a lot can happen. Like you said, it's only like 15 games in. But so far, I mean, I'm the most shocked by them. Who you got, Anthony Bruno?
Yeah, the Caps have been shocking. For the record, I had them going over their point total, but I didn't think they'd be this good. Like, they look really good.
Oh, you had them going over too?
I had them going over their point total. I'd have to go back and check, but I'm 98% sure I had them going over. I think their point total was set around like 90 or something like that.
Okay, I don't feel as smart anymore that you agreed with me, and I was.
We'll have to go back and check.
I thought I was right about something, and I outsmarted Bruno. Apparently not.
We'll have to go check the archives on that. Now, for me, there's kind of 2 teams that are tied as the most surprising. The first one that sticks out is definitely Nashville, because like even when you looked at their preseason point total, I believe it was set at 103.5 or 102.5. They were like one of the top 7 to 8 teams in the league. And they are off to a terrible start, and they're getting destroyed right now against the Florida Panthers. So they're about to move to 4-9-1 through 14 games. But to be honest with you, the team that's actually been more surprising, and here come all the comments saying Bruno's back to hating this team, but it's actually the Edmonton Oilers. Because
really?
I did not think in a million years they would get off to a terrible start again. And the most surprising thing is what we just talked about is how shit their special teams are. They have been like the greatest power play in the history of this league. And now they're operating at 14, 15%, and their penalty kills under 60%. And listen, I know McDavid has been out of the lineup. He's back now. But holy shit, after that start they had last season where they went 2-9-1, and you figured, okay, there's no chance in hell this is going to happen again. They almost tried to do it again. They almost did it again. So that to me has been the most shocking thing to start this season, because even me, listen, I was on the Oilers bandwagon. I said they were going to win the President's Trophy. I said they were the slam dunk best team in the NHL. And now this team is under 500? Like, what the hell is going on? Minus 12 goal differential through 14 games? Exactly like the Boston Bruins. Shit special teams. McDavid doesn't look good. Zach Hyman went like his first, 7 games without a point? Like, just some bizarre things going on. So again, it's just shocking. They're probably going to go on a run as they usually do and rip off like 15 wins in a row or something crazy like that. I just didn't think in a million years, after the start they had last season, firing Jay Woodcroft, that they would do the same shit again. I know it hasn't been as bad, but to me, it's them in Nashville. It's almost like a 1A, 1B, both stunning, because Nashville should not be this bad. That's embarrassing how bad they are with all that talent. But yeah, the Oilers, man, a team that I thought was going to maybe not run away with the President's Trophy, but a team that I thought was easily the best in the league, is now putting themselves in a hole again.
Yeah. As far as Edmonton goes, do you let them off the hook a little bit just for being bored? Or no, it's just the expectations were so high and this team's so low right now?
Yeah, I can't give them a pass. Sure, you can say Stanley Cup hangover. I can't give them a pass for this. When they pulled that shit last season, you figured there's no chance McDavid's going to let this happen on his watch. And lo and behold, they almost did the exact same shit. So no, I'm not giving them a pass at all.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well,
so you hate them again, Bruno. We took a little break, but nothing's changed.
I'm back to hating the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
The world is back on its axis.
The Oilers are this is why the Oilers are probably the most fun team to talk about, other than our favorite team, which we hate. Because the Oilers are fucking, number one, they can be bipolar. So it's so always interesting how like this team can do something like start a season 2-9 and then end up being the best team in the league for the rest of the regular season. And the thing about the Oilers, and I think even Oilers fans would admit this, I can't remember a team this good that's this flawed. Like, they have big flaws in that lineup, big, huge flaws. But it's just McDavid and Draisaitl, when they're pushing the bus, that team is unstoppable. And then when they start to get saves or at least above average goaltending, now it's impossible to stop them. So it's always fun. The Oilers are always fun. It's going to be interesting to see like how the rest of their season plays out, because to me, I thought that blowout loss to the Jets in their first game was kind of typical. Like, okay, yeah, like the whole feeling of the Stanley Cup final and losing, whatever. So I gave them a pass there. And at this point, I still am slightly giving them a pass, but we're running out of time because there is a math aspect, and you can't expect yourself to say for the last 60 games of the year, be the best team in the National Hockey League. Right. So it's going to be fun in Edmonton, as it always is.
And I said, the one thing that still leaves me feeling optimistic about the Oilers is that their 5-on-5 numbers are good. And it was the same thing last season. Right now, they're 5th in the league in expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. Last year, I believe they were number 1, despite being off to that 2-9-1 start. So seeing those numbers makes me feel a little bit better about them, but holy shit, they got to turn it around quick. But is there anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap up this podcast?
I'm just looking forward to the weekend, Bruno. We got Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, 3 home games. Let's make that record look nice. Let's make it look very nice for the early parts of the regular season.
Yeah, you said it. Red Wings, Habs, Senators, next 3 games. Then we got the Capitals, Oilers, and Golden Knights after that.
Yeah.
This is a nice 6-game stretch.
So,
Some 3 easy games and then 3. Maybe the Oilers game is going to be easy too. Maybe 4 easy games, 2 hard games. We'll see.
we'll see.
That's going to do it for episode 155 of the Gluttons for Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Listen, do all the fun stuff I always tell you guys to do if you want to support the show. Toss us a like on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and review. It does wonders for this podcast. And, even going back to YouTube, like, comment, share, and hit the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. So for Michael Lepore, I'm Anthony Bruno. Go Leafs, go, baby. Enjoy the hockey this weekend, and we will be back to talk to you very, very soon.
Thanks, everyone.